Okay, Carl, how are you?
Well, I'm doing well. Yeah, I had a good NAM show. We just had the
Yeah.
National Association of Musical Merchants, which is a 4-day thing here in LA. And
Yeah,
I
how'd it go?
performed a little bit down there and spoke on a panel. And then the next day, my band played the local baked potato. It's a
Yeah.
small place. I don't think it holds more than 150, but
Okay.
we sold it out. We sold out both shows, so that brings it
Okay.
up to around 300 or more because they have a
Nice.
back patio they sell tickets to too, so you can watch
Yeah.
us on TV. And I
Cool.
use that place to keep my band tuned up between tours and between,
Yeah.
bigger gigs and stuff like that, just to make sure that we all remember our lyrics and all our stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Parts.
I think I've seen you post it on Instagram a few times, and it just looks like a cool little vibey music place.
Yeah, I mean, you would not believe the people that play there
Yeah.
regularly. I
Yeah.
mean,
I
it's
think I
just,
think Josh Smith's down there frequently.
yeah, Joe Bonamassa's there all the
Yeah.
time. Larry Carlton comes into town and does three or
Damn.
four nights, and Mike Landau is a real regular there. He
Yeah.
works there all the time. Yeah, he loves
That's
it.
cool.
So.
How are those kind of small little music venues faring in the US at the moment?
Well, they seem to be doing well. There's as I tour, I can see that some promoters get it and
Yeah.
some don't. There's some promoters who just say it's all up to you to bring in
Hmm.
all the people and your social media and everything. There's
Yeah.
other promoters who, like, there's a guy in Bakersfield who has something called the Guitar Masters Series.
Yeah.
And I do it every year, and he's got it's like a subscription based thing and sponsors and stuff. And
Okay.
it's all we sell 600 seats every time we play there, which is incredible.
Okay. Well, that's
And
good. I mean,
so
over.
it just depends on the venue and the promoter,
Yeah.
and the night of the week sometimes. But these
Yeah.
guys always
Yeah.
do their shows on Wednesday. I'm going to go
Okay.
up there and see Matteo Mancuso on this Wednesday. He's
Oof.
playing, and I'm kind of hoping to sit in with him because
Yeah.
I got a big following there. I can fill up a 600 seater, so
Yeah. Cool.
I'm hoping
Yeah. I
that'll
mean,
happen.
over here, small venues are closing rapidly.
Oh, that's too bad.
It's a real shame. Like there's a venue just around the corner from me that had to rely on um, donations to keep the doors open,
Yeah.
and they had to raise. I think they had to raise 35,000 pounds in a month.
Did they do it?
Fortunately, they did it in
Mhm.
24 hours,
Oh, great. Yeah.
which was
We had
great.
we had uh, we had requests during the pandemic
Yeah.
from various venues that I play at to, help us stay
Mm.
alive, through this year and a half or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's
Yeah,
a
I
tough
mean,
one.
there's a bit of that going on. I mean, I think because here in the UK, it's like small music venues are obviously built in town centres,
Hmm.
and because there's just very few places to live, they start building developments near or around venues, and
Right.
then the residents complain about the noise, and then the venue gets closed.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
And I guess in the States, you've got a bit more space.
We got a little more space, but the
Yeah.
thing, the goal for me is not the small venues.
Mm.
I like to have a couple small venues on tap to do like the tune-up gigs, and
Yeah.
we have an acoustic version of what we can do, but it's all different material. There's only about 4 or 5 songs that are uh, um, crossover,
Okay.
because I just like to sing fun tunes and Bob Dylan
Mm.
tunes and play
Yeah.
instrumental arrangements with bass and drums. So we can do that in small venues. But my goal is always with the CVB, my own band,
Mm.
is to play like bigger theaters, with a bigger stage, and I can really open up and we can
Yeah.
really hear each other sing. I hired I have a keyboard player, and it was about a year and a half of taking him on tour when I really realized his wife is an amazing singer. I mean, he told
Mm.
me she was, and I knew they used to have bands together. But once I hired her too, it's really like lifted, it's floated all the boats. I'm singing better,
Mm.
the drummer's singing better. She's right in tune, and she remembers all the lyrics. She might be
Great.
using an iPad, whereas I can't. Right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Okay.
so now, with a 5-piece band, I just want to play bigger places that the sound can really open up. And our
Yeah.
record release concert was a place called the Thousand Oaks Performing Arts Center, And
Mm.
so that was nice, nice big room, so
Good.
I try to, I'm
That's
aiming for
amazing.
those. Yeah.
Yes, I mean it's great to be in that position. It's just, I guess, if all the small venues close, then the up and coming youngsters, small bands,
Yeah.
they haven't got anywhere to play.
And when
And
I was
then,
really young, like literally um, before I had a driver's license, I could play in a place in my hometown. I grew up here in a place called Pasadena, and it was
mm,
actually a little even suburb of Pasadena called La Cañada. And we had a
mm,
place called the Youth House, run by the self-appointed mayor, and he would hire my band, which was a three-piece band, guitar, bass, and drums, to play Friday nights, and the pay divided among three people was $20. So it was funny.
yes,
We make like $6.50 each, and somebody would get the extra 50 cents or something.
okay.
But I had to get my dad to drive me to the gig because I didn't have a license yet. And then eventually I started teaching at the youth house at age
Mm,
15 or 16. But that was great. And then the local high schools all had dances. They'd have
mm,
homecoming dance and they'd have Friday night dance. And there was about 5 or 6 places where we could play around,
yeah,
and I joined a bigger band. We actually played opposite Van Halen on the same night a couple of times. There
nice.
was there was a club called, it was like a club people joined called the Flintridge Riding Club. It was like horseback
Okay,
riding. I'm
yeah,
sure it's long gone, but they had an L-shaped building, and we set up on this stage, and Van Halen set up on that stage, and we'd alternate 45-minute sets. It was pretty fun
that is cool.
back in the day.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
So I know. I wish kids could have that experience nowadays.
Yeah, it's just, it seems to be. I mean, I think live music is always there. It's just, I don't know. Maybe I think in the 70s and 80s it was. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think it was more accessible, less accessible
You mean the live music? Yeah, I think it
to get
probably
out to
was.
gigs?
Yeah,
More accessible.
yeah, I think it was. I
Mm,
know in the '70s, and yeah, I know in the '70s there was at least people didn't use DJs. So live
yeah.
music, whether it was a Christmas party or a bar mitzvah or a birthday or whatever, a wedding reception.
Mm.
Did you do that kind of work, Tim, like wedding receptions and stuff?
I still do. I
Yeah,
still
yeah,
do.
yeah.
Yeah. I
I
mean,
did
it's still.
hundreds and hundreds of them until my 30th birthday.
Yeah.
And then I said, I'm not going to do this anymore. And I actually had a ceremonial tux burning afternoon where I put lighter fluid on my tuxedo and
Yeah.
sacrificed it. Yeah. When I turned
How was
30,
that?
I
Was
said,
that
I'm done with
liberating?
this. I'd rather starve and play jazz, in a
Yeah.
club than haul my Fender Twin up those stairs again.
Yeah. No, I think a lot of venues now, certainly over here, they're a little bit more accessible, but you still get the one where you've got to walk your gear through the kitchen, then through the dance floor, then up 2 flights of
Of course, yeah.
stairs, and so
Yeah. The Queen Mary, right? The giant boat, the giant ship.
yeah,
The
yeah, yeah.
Queen Mary is parked in Long Beach, and it's a venue. I mean, they've got ballrooms.
Okay.
They do giant parties in there. And I remember showing up there with a Les Paul and a Fender Twin, and the guy says musicians are not allowed to use the elevator, and it's on like
Oh,
the fifth,
nice.
sixth floor. And that, I mean,
Oh shit.
I think I snuck in just somehow because 6 flights with a Fender Twin.
Fuck it. Yeah.
Can't play after that.
Yeah. Okay.
So
So, I mean, I think everybody knows you as a session guy.
yeah, I mean, I did that for many,
So,
many years for sure.
how did you? I mean, how did you? Let's go right back to the beginning. How did you? What were your starting moments on guitar?
Well, very early on, like I begged for a guitar for a couple of years, and then it was on my 11th birthday. My grandmother gave me a $30 guitar and my parents gave me a lesson that same day. And I
Okay.
pretty much never looked back. I said, that's what I'm going to be when I grow up. And I had some
Yeah.
older cousins that were teenage girls, and they
Yeah.
all had pictures of Beatles in their
Yeah.
in their bedrooms, like on the ceilings and everywhere.
The Beatles, not Beatles.
Yeah, yeah, the Beatles.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that would have been that 60s era, 65,
Yeah.
66. And so I just go, that's the job I want right up there.
Yeah.
So, I never really thought about doing anything else, which is
Mm.
it's very rare, isn't it? In
Yeah.
and childhood that you go, that's what I'm going to do when I grow up, and I'm doing it.
That's amazing. And
Pretty
so,
much
like
never had another job except I was a box boy in a market one summer because I bought a Les Paul and I paid
yeah.
for it. My dad said you have to pay for it on time, right?
Hmm.
So I paid $28 a month and had a job to pay it off. So
Okay.
so that
It's
was
a
about it.
sacrifice.
Yeah, it was hard work.
Yeah, I bet. So the bulk of this podcast, this chat that we do, is on practice. How do we
Oh,
get
great.
better? So, like, I mean, so what are the? I mean, what's your approach to practice? What's your thoughts on what practice is, and maybe even what practice isn't? And do you still do it?
That is the hippest question any podcast has ever asked me. I mean, because yeah. Let me expound because I
Go for
love
it.
practice, and to be
Yeah.
honest, I think I kind of find my center as a person when I have that alone time to practice, and really think about what I want music to sound like. And I had a teacher
Yeah.
who said, "Your job is to make music sound different," and that blew my
Mm.
mind. And early on, I read an article by Chick Corea in the 70s. It was in Contemporary Keyboard magazine.
Hmm.
And in this article, he said one thing that just totally changed my life. He said, the best of us are only truly improvising 30% of the time. The other
Okay.
70%, we are stringing together things we've worked out.
Yeah.
So that got me thinking, when you listen to Chick Corea, he never sounds like he repeats himself. He's
Mm.
just blazing away. Like an A minor chord comes up and he just plays the most amazing lines. So
Yeah.
I got into thinking about lines, and I was taking lessons from this brilliant jazz dude named Joe Diorio.
Hmm.
And Joe got me into thinking about intervals and what do you consider to be melodic. And
Yeah.
so when you think about that, scales are basically whole steps and half steps, right?
Yeah.
Except for the harmonic minor, which has that pesky minor
Yeah.
third in it, right?
Yeah.
But
We don't like that.
right, yeah. So
It's a bit of a
so when
stretch.
you think, you're right, yeah, you got to reach for it. But when you
Yeah.
think about scales, they're really not what I want to sound like when I'm
Yeah.
improvising up and down scales. So I started putting together lines that really like not only used intervals, but took in the guitar, the whole real
Mm.
estate of the neck, and not just in one
Hmm.
position, top three strings, which is where most guys play. One
Yeah.
position,
Yeah.
top three strings. So I
Yeah.
started really
Yeah.
taking in the neck and enjoying like some real estate, like having a line that starts on a low F sharp and ends on the highest C sharp, right?
Yeah.
And so I started thinking in terms of major, minor, and dominant. I just need lines for minor chords, major chords, dominant chords. And they can
Hmm.
be as short as 5 notes, or they can be as
Yeah.
long as 25 notes, but they're
Yeah.
just lines. And if you think about it, like, okay, so I went over to Robin Ford's house to jam one day. We were just
Wait.
jamming.
Wait. I just
He was a local at the time,
I
right?
popped over to Robin Ford's house. Larry Carlton put the kettle on, and we just went through. Yeah.
Right, yeah. So Robin and I were talking, and I said, Robin, you've got so many great ideas, and when you're playing, you're just like so great. How do you catalog that stuff in your brain,
Mm.
right? How do you keep track? How do you catalog, and do you forget anything? And he goes, No, I have a cassette player. And he had this rack mounted cassette player right up here, right?
Mm.
And he goes, whenever I get a good idea, I push record.
Yeah.
I go, great. And then what do you do? And then he goes, well, when the tape fills up, I turn it over and record the other side. And I go, duh. Then what do you do?
Yeah.
And he said, he pointed across his living room, and there was this giant box like that a washing machine would come in. And it was
Mm.
literally brimming with cassettes. And I
Okay.
said, do you ever listen to that stuff? And he goes, nah. So it got
What?
it got me thinking about lately it's been me thinking about all the guys who use their phones for the same thing.
Mm.
So they've got in the memos of their
Yeah.
phones, or whatever they call it, the recorded memos, they got
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
hundreds of licks, but they don't listen to them, right? So what I started to do based on Joe Diorio's advice because I asked him, how do you remember these things? You've got just insane lines. And he goes, you got to write everything down, man.
Mm.
So
Mm.
I started what we call a lick book, and I'm probably on, volume 40 or something. So it looks like this. If you guys can see it, you can
Okay.
see that I'm writing. Let's see. The top one says E minor seventh, right? And then over the top, I put the positions, and
Hmm.
underneath, I've got the fingers I use.
Okay.
So this looks like it got a little water on it, but
Yeah. Yeah.
and then on page two, here's a C sharp minor line, and then what's that one? F7 diminished, and then you come
Okay.
down here, and I transcribe the chorus to a Sting song called 7 Days. So the lick book can be transcriptions.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
can be lines. It could be songwriting. It could be anything. But I use it a number of ways as I'm practicing. Sometimes you can practice in sort of that cosmic way where you just go up a line in B major, and then when you hit
Mm.
that high F sharp, you say, "Okay, now I'm going to be in D major," and because that's the third, right? So then I'll
Yeah.
come
Yeah.
down in D major and end on a let's see, maybe an E, and say, "All right, I'm going to go up a half step and go up in F minor," and then I'll
Hmm.
come down, and so you're just going where your thoughts take you, and it's something that I read that Santana does,
Okay.
and although I'm not a giant Santana fan these days, I do relate to that thing he said, which was as you're playing, you recognize a lot of your influences. You recognize,
Mm.
yeah, I got that from Clapton. Yeah, I got that from
Mm.
Joe
Yeah. Yeah.
Satriani. Yeah, I stole that from Hendrix. Yeah, I got that from Jeff Beck. You hear your influences going by, and then you come across something that is none of the above, right? And
Mm.
that's me. That's something I want to write down. So
Yeah.
I'll grab my lick book and say, this is a great idea. I can probably demonstrate if you like. Let me just turn on an amp here real
Sure.
quick.
Sure.
Um,
So I assume you go back through your lick books.
yeah, yeah. And let me see. Let me go. All right, here we go. Let's see. I'll just maybe turn off the distortion and see what I've got cooking here. I've been doing a bunch of errands today, so I haven't been
Okay.
practicing yet. But if I take the key of F minor, right, and I'm just jamming, just playing in minor pentatonic, right,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
get a groove going in my mind. Whoa, what was that? I
Mm.
stop because I just played something I've never played before, and it was. So if you're thinking in the terms of F minor Dorian or F minor
Yeah. Yeah.
pentatonic, I started on the third, A flat, went up to an F, went up to another A flat, then up a fifth to an E flat, and then an E. So that caught my ear, and I went, man, I got to write that down. So I
Yeah.
write it down in F minor, right? Right. And then I'm going to say, well, what if I wanted it in A minor? Going to be, because it starts on the third, right? So that would be the C. What if I wanted in D minor? Now I'm going back to F minor, and I'm saying, all right, now I'm going to change one note, and it becomes a cool B flat seventh lick, right? So it works for B flat seven, right? Then I
Okay.
look at it again, and I go, man, that would also work for like a D flat two chord, right? So if you listen to like D flat two, so now I've got 3 or 4 licks in my lick book, a whole page of them actually by the time I'm
Yeah.
done. And who knows, maybe just 1 or 2 will get under your hands because
Mm.
you practice it, but unless you can apply it sooner than later, it might not stick, right? So
You lose it.
I try
Yeah.
to do that. And then the next thing, I'm just going off.
Okay.
Poor Timmy's not getting a word in,
Go.
everybody.
Go.
The
Go.
next thing I
Go.
do is I go, all right, I got to be able. It's great to have a cool new lick, right, that you've got under
Yeah.
your hands for minor chords. Now I need to be able to access it. So So what I try to do is get into it from stuff I already play, right?
Right.
So,
Okay.
or get out of it, with the blues, or maybe go up to the ninth, right? So I try to access it, get in, get out,
Yeah.
find ways that it can work itself into my playing. That's one part of my practicing.
Okay.
But
So I
there's
mean
another part.
that's involved.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
So what else have
people.
you got?
Well, yeah. So that's the real. That's the practicing I really, really love to do because it's creative and inventive, and
Yeah.
it's where you find, like I say, I think I find my center as a person when I'm creating like that and filling up the
Mm.
lick book with new stuff. And I also go
Yeah.
back, I go back 10 pages and see what I was working on last month or something,
Yeah.
or 2 months ago. And I might find something that I wrote and realize, man, that was really good. I don't know why I never got that down under my hands. Or I might
Mm.
find that was cool, but I can actually use it for another chord too, just like that D flat major instead of F minor.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the other form of practice I do is holding on to my motto, which is I refuse to suck. I will not suck. So
Yeah.
I look at the next performance, the next place I'm going to play live or
Yeah.
any kind of gig I'm going to do, and I work that set list over and over again
Okay.
and
I mean
try to remember.
that's a healthy
Yeah,
practice to adopt.
yeah. And so just the if it's like if the gig is a week away, say,
Mm.
I make the set list, and oftentimes I will, if I do it on paper, like a legal pad or something, I'll write
Yeah.
the days of the week until the gig and line it off and make sure I check it every day that I've played it right. Now, if it's
Good.
an
Okay.
acoustic solo concert, man, I do it for 2 weeks out in front. Just
Mm.
work it over and over again. And the beginning, if you haven't done it in a while, it takes like 3 hours to get through the set list because you keep screwing up. But as it
Yeah.
gets closer, doing it every day, your hands get stronger and you remember everything. And then I'll just play letter A, letter B, letter C, done, as opposed to
Mm.
A, B, A, C, A. Just try to rip through it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the practicing the set list is a real important thing for me.
That's
So
good. That's cool.
those are my two
And
areas.
yeah, and how about things like technical exercises? Do you sit down and do things like that anymore?
I just don't believe in exercises, and
Yeah. Or playing scales and stuff like that.
well, yeah, I mean, once in a while I need some maintenance, and I have
Yeah.
I have a buddy who's a super chops player, and he says I'm a high maintenance player. Unless I do this
Mm.
shredding every day, I lose it. I seem to wake up warmed up 90% of the time, but every once in a while I'll run through the 12, I mean the 5 scale patterns in all 12 keys just to
Yeah.
make sure my picking is even on the bottom
Hmm.
strings and sounds the same as the top strings. Every once in a while, I need a little maintenance with the metronome. You know,
Okay.
a lot of times, what I do. I'm a big fan of harmony,
Yeah.
and this is something that. Have you ever been driving home from a gig or from anywhere, and a song comes on the radio, and you go, "God, I love this song," and I'm pissed at myself that I don't know what that harmony is. I don't know what they're
Yeah.
doing. And
Right.
that
Yeah.
sounds like
Yes,
a
I've done
really
that.
interesting progression. I try to hear it, and then where I can't hear it, I try to figure out, okay, what is it? So it's
Yeah.
funny. I was messing around yesterday, and it was the same thing. I was driving home from a gig, and I heard "Black Hole Sun" by Soundgarden.
Oh.
That is such an amazing progression. So I came home and I went,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then I guess he goes, anyway, just a really cool
Anyway,
progression.
just
So,
it's
so a lot of
amazing.
times my love of harmony takes me down these paths where I just go, why don't I know that? Or you might listen to like a song and go, God, I love this song. I need to find out why. What
Yeah.
about it?
Yeah.
What part of it? What's happening with it that just
Mm.
trips me out a little bit?
Okay, that's cool. So what's I know you had your latest album release. Was that last month? 2 months ago?
It was a
How's that
few
been
months.
going? How's that
Yeah,
been going?
it's been going well. Yeah, yeah, we've been promoting it, but then I have a 5 week European tour coming up in April and May. Come
Okay.
home and then do the West Coast. So I find that there's all this streaming going on, and you can find how you're doing with streaming.
Yeah.
I'm still so old school that I just want to know how much vinyl and how many CDs I'm selling, and that has really dropped off, except for when you play live. People want to take
Yeah.
home
Okay.
that souvenir of you, so
I think
so I
I
still
think
make
that's all.
CDs and I still make vinyl, but
Yeah.
it's people are streaming you. That's about it, really.
Yeah. So yeah, I took my daughter to a concert. I've just started over the last couple of years taking her to gigs, um, and it's really cool. I don't know if
Hmm.
you did this with your kids. You take them to a gig. It's a band that they really like. She's really into them, and I don't watch the band. I just watch her. I'll just
Right.
see what's her reaction, and I'm just constantly just checking it, and she's just like in it,
So in it,
and
yeah.
it's amazing. And yeah, and she always wants to get like a thing, a
What's
t-shirt.
her age?
She's 12.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
so
when I
she's
got arrested by music, 11, 12. That
yeah.
era when you're just like, that is the most important thing.
Mm.
That's very cool. I'm glad
Yeah.
that generation is still where we were.
Yeah, I think they are. I think it obviously this is I've found I don't know how many people you teach face to face, particularly young kids. Probably not many. Um,
Not too many, yeah.
even though music today is essentially free, the amount of students that I have that don't listen to music,
They what? They
it's
don't?
they don't listen to music. I say, "What do you
Wow.
listen to?" They're like, I don't really listen to music. I watch TikTok or I flick through
Wow.
Instagram and YouTube Shorts." And I was like, "You don't listen
Hmm.
to music, but so but you want music lessons?"
Yeah. Why are you
And
why are
they're
you
like,
studying
"Why are you?"
music if it's not,
I was like,
why
"Why?"
don't you?
Yeah, that's my next question: is why are you here? They're like, "Oh, my mum
Yeah.
wants me to be." I was like, "All right, okay."
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That's
I've not
that's
only
a
got to teach you how to play, I've got to teach you how to listen, and I've got to teach you how to.
right. Wow,
So
that's
yeah, and
that's
I've
really sad, isn't it? Yeah, but when we
yeah,
were kids, there was no cell phones or YouTube or anything,
no,
so there was records you had to put on and then listen to
yeah,
them from start to finish and slow them down to learn the licks and stuff. And
yeah.
that's my era. I'm sure you probably came
I
along a
was
little bit later with CDs and stuff, but
Yes, and it was a lot harder to slow them down. You had to get a
yeah,
specific tool to slow them down.
I
You
know.
used to be able to do the A/B repeats on some CD players. So if there was a lick, you just put the A/B repeat on, and it will just keep repeating the lick, but
Oh,
it wouldn't
cool.
slow it down. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
that was cool. But yeah, she always wants a t-shirt, a thing to take home, hat. But yeah, it's nice seeing that she's like she gets music. She listens to it the same way that I do. She doesn't just listen to it. It's not background noise. She just absorbs it,
Man, that's very
and
cool.
I like that she does that.
Yeah.
She fights me on music lessons, but
Uh-huh. Does she have an
so
instrument she might be interested in, or?
she has piano. We've got a little piano back here. She has lessons, but she's a little bit reluctant.
Yeah.
She's a bit like, "Ugh, why do you make me
Right.
do this?" It's like, just do it, just do it. But yeah,
Just do it. Just sit down and do it. Yeah.
same with the little one. She loves music. I mean, music is always on in the car. It's always on in the house.
Hmm.
And when I speak to other musicians and I say, "How do you get started?" One of the first things they say is, "Music was always on in the house."
Yeah, that's the way I should
Mm,
tell you too. I should say the same. My parents listened to Sinatra and Harry Belafonte, and I mean,
yeah.
I remember my parents had a twist party, which was like early '60s when I was just a little kid. Go to bed, and then I came down and looked into the living room, and they were doing the twist,
Yeah.
which is like this the dance craze, Chubby
Yeah, yeah.
Checker and all this stuff. So yeah, my parents were really into it. My dad could sing and could play a
Mm,
little piano, and my grandmother was a real pianist. She was a concert
mm.
pianist as a kid, and I
Wow.
have her piano, and I
Oh,
just
nice.
I just restrung it, had it restrung. It's a grand piano and it was funny. I
Okay.
called you know, I, all my years in the studio, I got to know the main guy in Hollywood, the studio piano tuner.
Yeah.
His name was Keith Albright. He passed away, but before he died, I said, "Hey Keith, will you come out and tune my piano?" And he goes, "I don't go out of town." And I go, I just live in Topanga. It's only 25 minutes from Hollywood. He goes, yeah, I don't go out of town. So he recommended this Russian guy. So the Russian guy came in and I said, I answered the door and I said, can I get you a cappuccino or an espresso? He goes, espresso. Okay. I walked around the corner in the kitchen and he went over and ding, hit a G and goes, I can't help you. I can't help you. And I go, what's wrong? He goes, you need a complete restring. It's going to cost $15,000. And I go, but I'm a guitar player. I'd rather spend 15,000 on a flying V.
New guitar. Yeah.
So anyway, he left, got another estimate, 12,005. And then recently I was in a studio and they said, oh, you should call this guy at Pacific Piano. And he said, I called him and he goes, what do you have? I said, I have a Mason and Hamlin. He goes, go look inside. If it says Boston, I'll be right over. And it did. He goes, because the Rochester ones aren't as good. He came over. He did the whole thing for like under 7,000. And it's beautiful. And it sounds amazing. So I've been playing a bunch of piano, but all I can play is like, I Am the Walrus and stuff like that.
Yeah. It's more than
funny. I know every chord. I can play every chord.
It's the weird thing. Like when I can sit down at the piano, I can sit and work chords out. It's like, but you're just stacking thirds. Okay, so if we could just move that around there's an inversion of an E minor. Oh, right. C and E minor is just no, and it's just that music, that universal music theory, just starts to kick in.
Exactly.
Yeah, grateful I learnt it.
Yeah, no, it's very true.
Yeah. So you said about 5 minutes ago you don't believe in exercises, and I've heard you say this before. So what's your view on like musical technical exercises?
Well, I believe that I don't really want to waste my time with anything that I can't use on stage or in the studio. I can't, because it would sound like an exercise. So I would much rather write licks in my lick book, learn them, get them up to speed, and practice that. That to me is much more better use of my time and more musical, endeavor than exercises. Because if you can be real fast at scales, you're going to play scales to impress people, and that's what I don't want to hear. That I'd much rather hear music and melody, melodic ideas and stuff. So that's my theory. I mean, like I said, once in a while I need a little maintenance and I run through some stuff with the metronome, but try not to spend too much time on that.
Yeah.
But I got to admit, I play every day, as many hours as I can, just because I love to, and it's what I do. And I try to rehearse my band as much as possible, as much as they're available. And so we were really tight on Saturday night playing at this place, the Baked Potato. We were really tight based on a couple of rehearsals we recently did. And it was not because we've been playing a lot. We haven't really played much since November. Took December off, and so anyway. So the fruits of rehearsals and of practice are they're really bountiful,
readily available.
Yeah. And let me ask you: do you work on exercises?
Do you know what yes, I went through a phase probably 2-3 years ago where I was having lessons with a guy, and they were very, very technical. I mean, he's one of those, like one of your friends that you mentioned. He's a top level shredder,
right?
And he would say, right, okay, yeah. And I just said, look, I just want to get my alternate picking because it sucks. I just need to get that. I've hit a ceiling, and it's a ceiling I'm not happy with. And he went, all right, okay, so we'll just do some legato exercises. So he had me running up and down scales. He'd adjust the metronome, goes work on that for a week, come back, adjust the metronome again, go back. And after about 2 or 3 years, I just found that my technical ability had just shot up, which was great. And then I just sort of found myself, as you said, that when I'd come to improvise, my improvisation just sucks. And I was just like, I'm just running up and down scales. Mm-hmm. So I just took a back seat and went, right, let's go back. Let's just play some Hendrix. Let's just go and play the stuff that I grew up. Let's go and play Oasis or Pearl Jam or whatever it was that I grew up on. And so I went back and then applied all the technical exercises back to the stuff that I love.
Yeah, that's a great way to do it. Go back to
It
your
was
roots. Yeah.
yes. So yeah, and I'm there
Okay,
now. I've
which
got this. I've got this Strat here, which I've tuned to E flat, and I'm just
oh
going
nice.
through Hendrix stuff. So it's cool.
Yeah. I keep one of
It's
I've got 14 strats. I don't know why
yeah,
they seem to multiply, but I
they
keep
do.
one tuned to E flat for sure. Definitely have
Yeah,
to have an E flat guitar. And actually, the title track of the new album called Riverboat Sky, the song Riverboat Sky, I
yeah,
used that E flat guitar. It just sounded better down there. The song can be
yeah.
played in A, but it works better in A flat. It just sounds real rich, you know?
There's something about a Strat in E flat that is just really lovely.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
can't
more
put
so
it
than
into
a
words.
PRS or a Les Paul.
Yeah,
Strats just
yeah.
have that resonance. Yeah, I hear you. I
It's
never thought
something.
about
In
that, but
fact,
you're right. Yeah.
yeah, it's
So.
lovely. It's
Well, I'm
great.
glad to hear
So,
that you broke through the barrier and then you applied
mm,
it to your roots. And you mentioned
yeah.
Oasis. Those two guys taught me how to drink grappa.
Okay,
I
go
was on
on.
a festival with Oasis in Bologna. I think it was Bologna, Italy.
Yeah.
And I was in the bar and I ordered a grappa and I just went, God, this is awful. And they came over, hey mate, you're drinking the wrong stuff. Don't drink the brown stuff. Drink the clear stuff. And so I sat down at a table with them and I think we got pretty drunk together.
Okay, that's a
But
lovely
I dig
story.
those guys. They were really cool. Very, very
you,
friendly.
you know that was when Morning Glory dropped. That was I think the end of '95, and I was just sitting my exams at high school,
Oh
and
wow.
I'd gone through this phase from the age of about 13 up to 15, where all I
Hmm.
was listening to was like hardcore dance music.
Hmm.
And I did it just because everybody was listening to it. And then when I heard Wonderwall, I think it was Wonderwall or Don't Look Back in Anger.
Yeah.
And it just my world just went 180. I
Yeah.
went, that's it, I'm done. Everything went in the bin, and I was down the record store buying. I bought
Right. Oh,
everything that they
interesting.
released,
Yeah. Yeah.
every album, every single, every B side. I just knew them all, and it
Uh-huh.
just
Wow.
that was my obsession.
Right. Yeah.
So
I've had a few artists where I knew everything they did.
yeah,
So it's that's
that was
kind of
cool.
that's kind of a devotion. I
Mm,
remember teaching this guy who came out from Boston to take a lesson out here in LA. And
cool.
his wife and him came out and he took a lesson in person. And he goes, he had a real thick accent. He goes, before we get
Mm,
started, I'd like to play you my demo. So we pop his CD in, and it
yeah,
was one of the most horrible sounds. I mean, his guitar sound was yuck, just
yeah,
nasty. So I sat through this, whole tune. And then I go, well, the first thing I'd like to talk to you about is your tone, your sound.
mm,
You're really not coming across because it's just not. You've got way too mushy at the bottom end, and you've way too much distortion. And I go,
yeah.
what kind of gear are you using? And the guy he goes, look, what Carlos does, I do. And I go, what? When Carlos had the SG, I had the SG. When Carlos went to the Paul Reed Smith, I went to the Paul Reed Smith and the Mesa Boogie. So he's basically a Carlos Santana
Yeah.
fanatic. He doesn't care what he sounds like, just so long as he plays that gear. So I said, well,
Jesus.
what Carlos does works for him, maybe, but not.
Yeah.
It's not working for you. You really need to think about this. And he was sort of unreceptive. So then he said, "Are you playing anywhere where I'm in town?" And I go, "Yeah, I'm playing tomorrow night at a
Mm,
big venue with a band." And I said, "As a matter of fact, the band has Alfonso Johnson in it." And he
mm.
goes, "Alfonso Johnson? He plays with Carlos." So he was there, right? Front row watching the whole show. And it wasn't my band, it was a keyboard player's band. And
Yeah.
at the end of the night, I said, "How'd you like it?" He goes, "Horrible. You didn't play any Carlos." So it was pretty funny, just a funny little experience. I go, "Buddy, you need to find yourself somewhere
Yeah.
outside,
Yeah.
Carlos Santana." So
Yeah.
anyway.
So the other thing I was going to talk briefly about, I know you've done a lot of teaching, and I know you've taught at some of the biggest schools in the States. And I want to know what your thoughts on current music education, particularly music education in schools or colleges and courses and stuff.
Well, that's a really good question. I was teaching at University of California, Southern California, USC.
Yeah.
And I was also teaching at Musicians Institute. One day a week
Yeah.
I'd go. And both places, the class was believe it or not, advanced electric guitar in the style of Carl Verheyen. That's how they got me to do it. They put my name on it.
Yeah.
But I had to quit for two reasons. One, I quit USC because you had to be there all 12 weeks, and I'd have to go out of
Yeah.
town for 3 weeks, and you can't do that. But I
Yeah.
quit Musicians Institute because my whole focus was not learn to play like me, but
Mm.
learn the things that I learned that enabled me to make a living.
Yeah.
And I had a guy raise his hand in the back one day, and I was teaching some kind of maybe a Steve Cropper or Curtis Mayfield rhythm part.
Yeah.
And the guy goes, "Why do I need to learn that? All I want to do is play like Slash." I
Okay.
said, "Buddy, I've played with Slash, and I dig him. He's a great guy. But me and my friends played as well as Slash in high school. Probably
Yeah.
not true, but
Yeah.
in other words, we learned it by listening to those records and could play
Mm.
it. Slash wasn't around when I was in high school, but you know what I'm talking about. We
Yeah. Yeah.
learned how to play like Jimmy Page and
Yeah.
Hendrix and Clapton and all these guys that were our heroes. Dwayne Allman, Dickie
Mm. Yeah.
Betts, Mike Bloomfield, the guys that are our heroes. We learned to play by listening to the records and figuring it out.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that where education in schools might be lacking is they're not really giving you the tools to make a living as much as they
Okay.
should.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I would say.
Okay.
USC, they had a department called Studio/Jazz.
Okay.
But the whole focus was to get you to learn how to play jazz. And
Mm.
I do agree that jazz harmony is going to get you really, really far in this world,
Yeah.
knowing jazz harmony. Being a jazz guitar player might be a little tough to make a living,
Yeah.
if that's all you can do.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
also think that music industry is, as far as a player, it's I think of it like a pie. And if you can
Mm.
play rockabilly guitar, you get one wedge. If you can
Yeah.
also play country guitar and bluegrass guitar and heavy metal
Yeah.
guitar and blues guitar all the way around, and you can play convincingly in any of these styles, in other words, there may be one or two that are real for me, but I can
Mhm.
do all the rest. And therefore, if I get hired as a studio musician or any
Yeah.
kind of player, they know that if the music sort of changes in the course of the session, they don't
Yeah.
have to send me home.
Okay.
And I showed
So
up
how
one
was your?
session. Mhm.
No, go on. Go on.
Well, I was going to say, I showed up at this one session where the guy says, it's country music. You don't need your cartage. You don't need all your stuff, your pedal boards, your amps, your racks, your trunks of
Yeah.
guitars. You just need a Telly and a Fender Princeton.
Okay.
I go, okay. And then later on, he goes, well, maybe you should bring your cartage because
Yeah.
there's going to be another guy there that's going to have a
Mm.
Telly and a Princeton. So I showed up, and the other guy had a Telly and a Princeton and a cowboy hat and a shirt with those deals on it, and the belt,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
whole
Yeah.
cowboy rig. And so we started on this tune, and it's going along. And the producer came out and said, yeah, I think it could rock a little more. So I put my Telly away and got a Strat, put some hair on it, a little distortion. And it went that way. And then eventually, the chorus had needed a Les Paul. And we finished cutting this tune, and it took about 3 hours while they explored all these avenues. And then they go, let's do an acoustic version, So I had a 12-string and a dobro and we were trying different things. And then they go, we'd love it if you could come back tomorrow for the next tune. So I came back the next day. The cowboy hat guy was gone. In other words, he knew one wedge of the pie. He knew one thing he could do. So I think that's really important. And I don't think they really teach that much in schools these days. I mean, I think it'd be difficult.
Yeah, I mean, to do all of it. So what I was going to ask is, how are your heavy metal chops?
I think they were better when I was doing it more like in the 80s and 90s, when I was more into it. But I do have a couple of Floyd Rose Strats that you can shred on with humbuckers in the back. And,
excellent.
So, my tapping is kind of off these days. I used to be a better.
Do you know, I've never latched on to tapping. I've tried. I've just it just doesn't speak to me.
There's guys who do it so well. I've done a handful of concerts, maybe 4 or 5 concerts with Govin.
Yeah,
And
he was a teacher
that
of
guy
mine when I was at
taps.
college.
He was what?
He was my teacher when I was at college.
Oh wow, yeah. I mean, his
Yeah,
tapping chops are insane, and he kind of got me inspired to get back into it, but I don't know. For me, I would need to put the pick in the next finger and tap,
yeah,
and
yeah,
but a lot of these guys just come up and they're playing a line and then they hit a tap note, and it's amazing,
yeah,
really. Constant tapping requires a level of distortion that is so saturated that
mm,
I don't really care for the tone.
yeah,
In other words, when you try to tap when you're clean, what was that guy Stanley Jordan? To me
hmm,
that sounds really sterile. He's an
yeah,
amazing musician, but I just don't listen to it because it doesn't have a lot of soul for me. But
yeah,
anyway, so don't worry about
yeah,
it. I don't think you're missing much.
yeah. I know every now and again I'll pick it up and I'll just sit and tap for a bit and just get my finger back into
Right,
back up to speed.
right.
Um, the other thing I've always wanted to talk about is just your life as a studio session player. How did you get into it, and how has it changed over the years? And
Well, it all started in the very early '80s. I was back in the '70s. I was living south of here in a place called Orange County, and
yeah,
they had just 2 or 3 studios, but that they did a lot of Disney work. And
yeah,
I was doing a lot of that work, but then I realized I am the big fish in the smallest of all ponds.
yeah,
So I moved, 45 miles north into literally North Hollywood, the thickest of
yeah,
it all, right in the thick of it. And I just started hustling, and a few of my buddies were doing sessions, so I latched onto them. And
hmm,
the first real union dates I started doing were TV. I was
yeah,
doing a TV show called Happy Days, and then one
yeah,
called
yeah,
Laverne and Shirley, and then
yeah,
and then what starts to happen is that's just because I met an orchestrator and befriended him,
mm,
and he started to, as he orchestrated, he goes, "Hey, you should call Verheyen." So I started
yeah,
getting on sessions, and then those composers talk to other composers and they ask, "Who are you using on guitar?" I got this new kid named Verheyen. So I
mm,
started getting calls that way. And then it was really getting strong. And I mean, I remember one day getting a phone call from a guy saying, "Can you play charango?" And I go,
so
"Yeah,
what?
it's an instrument, right?"
All
And I
right.
go, "How many strings does it have?" And he goes, "8." And I go, "Yes, I'll be
Yes.
right over." Oh, I said, "Oh, do you have one?" And he goes,
Yeah.
"Yeah." So I came over there and I tuned it to a guitar and
Yeah.
capoed it and I played on this track. And then
Yeah.
it was a movie called Stand and Deliver. I'll never forget, which was kind of had a Latin kind of a theme,
Yeah. Yeah.
Mexican in a way. And I actually said, here's that word again, Santana. I
Yeah.
said, you know what this particular track could maybe use is kind of some of that Santana lead playing, with distortion. And he goes, do you have one? And I literally had an SG in the car, and I
Yeah.
hadn't even brought it in. So I brought in the SG and a Fender amp or something and little pedal board, and I played on the whole movie in the next 2 or 3 days. And then he said, "I'm starting a TV series next week. I'd like you to play on it." And it turned out to be this TV show called Cheers. And I did the next
Nice.
9 years of Cheers with
Wow.
Vinnie Caliuta and Gary Herbig and all these monster players. And it was literally almost every week for 22 weeks a year. And
Wow.
that started to snowball to while it was really burning.
Mm.
But then I auditioned for Supertramp and I got that
Yeah.
gig. And so now I'm out of town for 4 months in the US and North America and 4 months in Europe. Came back and picked it up again. And around that time, I started my own band, but continued to do studio work full speed ahead, like 10
Yeah.
sessions a week throughout the '90s. Into the early 2000s, I started to get some traction with my own band. Our third and fourth album had come out, and all of a sudden I was
Yeah.
starting to tour. And the more you're out of town, the more contractors, composers,
Yeah.
arrangers, they'll call. And if you can't do it, they'll call the next guy, right? Then
Yeah.
the next guy sort of he played on the demo, so he gets to do the real gig. So
Right.
there was a transition period from Carl Verheyen, uh, studio guy, to
Hmm.
Carl Verheyen solo artist. And I think of it as, I don't know how I pulled it off, because they're kind of lean years financially, because
Yeah.
you can't just be touring all the time. And
Yeah. Yeah.
but I would come back in and scrape in together whatever studio work I had. And so I think my real run was the early 80s until maybe about 2005 or 6,
Mm.
when my solo career started to pay enough. And under the banner of solo artist, you
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
you can do all kinds of income streams, besides publishing and royalties, live performance. You can also produce people. You can do master classes and educational things and tours.
Yeah.
I went to Italy 4 times a year, 3 years in a row. Literally
Nice.
flew to Italy 12 times in 3 years. One of them was for Supertramp, and then there would be like a guitar camp, or there
Yeah.
would be like a, a Carl Verheyen band tour, or a solo acoustic tour, or a
Yeah.
clinic tour. Happen again the next year and the next year. So stuff filled in, and I pulled it off, and now seems to be working.
It's good.
So
It's great. I mean, it's such a long, illustrious career. I mean, how does it? Do you see yourself as a guitar legend?
nah, I'm
Do you
really.
know the rest of us do?
Oh, I really see myself as a like literally a student of the guitar,
Hmm.
and trying to find out new things all the time.
Yeah.
Huh, a legend. Wow, that scares me.
Yeah. Do you know? I don't know if you know. Have you heard of a guy called Pete Callard?
Pete Kellogg?
Callard.
Kellogg. No, I don't know him.
No, he's well. He was well, he still is. He's a session player over here in the UK. He
Oh,
does.
yeah.
He used to write for Guitar Techniques magazine,
Oh, okay. I love
and
that magazine, by the way.
I had him on 2 months ago, and we were
Uh-huh.
talking about life
I
as a
just looked
studio
over. I
player.
have a cover, a magazine cover with me and BB King on the cover of Guitar Techniques.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway,
he's
go on.
probably
I
in there.
started to interrupt.
And I was talking to him about being, about his life as a session player, and he said, it's a bit of a myth, the session player thing. We're not all Carl Verheyens that just walk in and can play everything.
Oh,
And
wow. He knows who I am. That's amazing.
it's
That's cool.
and no, he said, because he's like a big jazz player, and I think I asked him about his country chops. He's like, I'm not a country player. If you want a country guy, there's a country guy. Now
Mhm.
he's a big jazz player, and yeah, and your name popped up, and then I mentioned that
Wow,
you and I had
amazing.
done that session, and he said, "Oh shit, man, I didn't realize that. I hope
Oh,
I didn't
wow.
speak ill." I was like, "No, no, no." He's, but yeah, it's that. I mean, I just think you're like notorious for just being able to go in and do, like you said, you've got all of the wedges of the pie, and you can get the
Oh,
call
man.
back the first day, the second day, the third day, and
Oh,
I
man.
think to be
Well,
able to do
here's
that is,
here's a concept you can think about. You
mm,
you can you can say, all right, all these different styles are somewhere on that guitar neck, right? They
yeah,
live on that guitar neck, and it's only 12 little notes. So if
yeah,
you think about that, then you think, okay, there's what makes each style different, and I call it the ornamentation of the style. In other words,
okay,
the blues licks are in the key of G, are going to be
yeah,
slightly different than the bluegrass licks, right? But
hmm,
the ornamentation of the blues licks is that you're going to play out of the minor pentatonic and the major pentatonic,
yeah,
occasionally the mixolydian mode, and
hmm,
you're going to bend, and
yeah,
you're going to play the flat five, and you're going to play the flat seven all the time. In other words, you're going to play the blues. When you think
yeah,
about bluegrass, you're going to put the third next to the minor third, and maybe the
hmm,
fifth next to the flat five. You're gonna, like for bluegrass, and this guitar is tuned down a little bit, but a typical, those. I put it in the. I went and saw Molly Tuttle recently, and she's one of my
okay,
favorite
yeah,
bluegrass players. And she puts the capo, moves it around, and plays everything
Yeah.
in the key of G, pretty much. So anyway, I tuned
There you
this
go.
guitar down to play Black Hole Sun by Soundgarden.
Okay,
Completely
cool.
different kind of music.
Yeah.
So,
That's cool. Well, I think I'm just going to say thank you for your time, and it was lovely to catch up and have a chat.
yeah, what a blast, Tim. I'm glad you
Yeah,
got this going.
it's
So
going okay. I think I think it's ticking over quite nicely. But
it's
yeah, I always appreciate the time that everyone gives to it.
oh great. Well, I'm happy
So
to do it, and wish you the best. And I hope to get back over to England, and play at someplace other than that last place.
that little church that was a fun little gig. That was good.
Oh man, hey, you know who Albert Lee is, right?
Of course, I know who Albert Lee. I
Oh,
don't know
cool.
not
So
personally, but yeah.
well, we're pretty good friends, and he doesn't live too far from here. And we're going
Okay.
to do something in October in
Yeah.
Scotland called the
Okay.
Ullapool Guitar Festival. The
Oh, you
two of
did that
us.
last year. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I did it last year, and
Yeah. Yeah.
and Ryanair lost my luggage, so it was a
Yo. Yes.
nightmare.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Did you
had to
get it? I
play
assume
on
you got it
borrowed
back.
guitars and wear the same clothes I'd been wearing for 4 days, and it was rough. But
It's like you're 17 again on tour.
yeah. You want to take after 4 days or 5 days in the same pair of jeans, you
Yeah.
just want to take them off, put them in the corner, and shoot them. But
If
I
you put them
told
in the corner,
Albert,
they'll stand up.
whatever we do, we're not flying Ryanair. There's no
Yeah.
way. I'm carrying on everything, and
Yeah.
anyway,
Okay.
so
Is
that'll
that
be
your
fun.
only UK? Is that your only UK date this year?
So far, yeah. I've
Okay.
got a lot of let's see, Scandinavia and Germany, Austria, Switzerland, Italy, Luxembourg, and Belgium, and maybe one or
Okay.
two in France. I'm doing all that with the band, but
Okay. Well, I'll check
so
them out, and
but,
if not, then I could take a train over to France.
oh
I can
man,
do
it'd be
that.
fun. Yeah.
That'd be
So
cool. That'd be
anyway,
cool.
well, thanks so much for having me.
No, thank you for doing it.
All right,
All right. Cool. Thank you.
take care. Okay.